This is from inside Mexico in Nogales, looking to the American side. Nogales, Mexico, looking back towards the American side. And this is looking over back into Nogales, Arizona. That's it right there. So far, only some local police. No soldiers, just like I thought. Downtown Nogales, Mexico. And I'm going to turn this around slowly. Found them yet. I doubt that they'll be here. Colorful houses. They like to make them bright. This is the border fence between Nogales, Mexico and Nogales, Arizona. And supposedly they're putting in a new fence. This one's definitely old. Had some problems. Blocks and causing difficulties. So I'm going to stop down here and talk to these Border Patrol agents that we can see right here. And you can see the fence headed on east, like we were talking about. Welcome to the documentary Borders. I'm Roy Potter. I'm the director and producer of the documentary. And due to the political nature of the subject matter, I thought it only appropriate that I open it here. Most of you will recognize it as the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. But in 1836, this was contested territory between Mexico and the United States. In 1836, a small group of American patriots defended this mission and this territory against the onslaught of the Mexican army led by Santa Anna. Now, however you view the political situation on the southern border, with immigrants coming over to take jobs, the fact of the matter is that the southern border is our weakest point. It is the soft underbelly. While Americans are searched at airports, searched in transportation facilities, at athletic events, and soon on the streets of the United States, merely walking down the street by federal agents, these men that defended this post here did it for liberty. I'm in Laredo, Texas, and just across the Rio Grande right there is Mexico. There's a little inlet right here, and there are several Border Patrol officers just a few yards from me. I wanted to come down closer here to the inlet because of what you can see here. Now, these two Border Patrol agents and the lights and the distance that we're talking about here would probably, more than likely, discourage just a regular citizen. However, military trained personnel would know how to use this to their advantage to get into the country. There are no cameras here that I can see. There are lights and there are the Border Patrol agents. But military trained personnel could definitely cross the Rio Grande here and come up this ravine and enter into the country undetected. I'm standing just up the hill from the Rio Grande. You can see it basically right over there, and that ravine is just below me. And they do have these very powerful lights here. As you can see, there's one there, and we're going to come over here and spot this other one. And they're dispersed throughout the area. And we have these two Border Patrols here. One's there and one's across the ravine. Still, not a problem for somebody trained to do it. Well, I'm heading towards Brownsville on Highway 83, and I'm about 20 miles southeast of Laredo. And what I'm finding is, of course, a lot of open space. A lot of it is fenced off because much of Texas is privately owned. This happens to belong to something called the Columbus Energy Corporation. But guess what? I can't find any patrols around here. There was one on the other side before this started, and I've seen none since. Got up on some high ground, still couldn't find any. Just an interesting observation. You can cross the river if you know what you're doing and move through this, and since it's private property and nobody's watching it, get quite a ways. What we are concerned about on the southern border is that anyone can come across there. We're going to talk about a couple of groups in this documentary, one called the Zetas, the other the Zapatistas. They're not necessarily just drug cartels. Some of the people in these groups are well-trained military professionals, and you'd be surprised who has trained them. Be that as it may, what we want to do is to secure our southern border and to make sure that our pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness continues in this great land. It can't if we allow our nation, our ground, to be invaded by those who would seek to remove those things from us, and also who would seek to harm us. While I'm certain that the Border Patrol does the very best it can with what it has, the fact is that a militarily trained unit can only be countered by a militarily trained unit. A paramilitary group can move through this section of the country very easily, undetected, and pretty much go anywhere it wants. My point of the military is this. Partially at the request of the United States, the Mexican government deployed Mexican troops along the Mexican side of the border. And there have been some reports that Mexican troops have actually entered U.S. soil, and I'm here to try to verify that. But if the Mexican army is needed to counter the problem on the Mexican side of the border, so it should be that a military unit is on our side of the border. Now what you see behind me here is Falcon Reservoir, Falcon Lake. And it was here last year, 2010, that some Mexican encroachments were made in this area, and there was a person killed who was riding a wave runner. Now that's only one incident, but the fact of the matter is that these things exist. I talked to some workers not far up the road here, and they were telling me that this is one of the hot spots. Again, the Border Patrol does the best it can, but if you really want to traverse this area and you're militarily trained, you can go pretty much undetected, and you don't necessarily have to keep your numbers down. Depends on how you do it. Well, I'm down here at Falcon Lake, down next to the water, and I wanted to show you something that's kind of interesting. I'll let you read this. Basically it says crossing into Mexico could be dangerous. So obviously the point is well made. And what is that? Of course the point is that if we can cross over into Mexico, Mexicans can cross over to the United States. Now what happened in the water skiing wave runner situation was that two Americans, a man and a woman, crossed over the middle of the Rio Grande. Falcon Lake is the dammed part of the Rio Grande River, and of course if you go north of here or south, you have just the Rio Grande, but here it's dammed up and it's become one of the great bass fishing lakes in the country. At any rate, this couple went and crossed over into the Mexican side. So you could say, well, you know, it wasn't a good idea for them to do that, and nobody really knows what the reason was. But again, the gentleman was killed, he was shot, and the woman made it back to report what occurred. I guess my point in this whole thing is that you can get across here. If you really want to, you can get across here. Now, most everybody that tries that, of course, is looking for work or coming for family. But there is that other element. The Zetas and Zapatistas. You have the problem of the deserters from the Mexican military. You know, they get paid a few $100s a month in the Mexican military. But in the Zetas, for instance, they can make thousands. So, Rio Grande, not as hard to get across as you might think. Okay, to give a little perspective on this, there's this little city of Roma right there. And as you can see, there's not much going on here. There's the Rio Grande right there. And it looks like they're building a road right here, or at least something coming up to the edge. But you can see how easy it would be to get across that. And there's really not much here. They probably have something on the river watching up and down, but believe me, that would be pretty easy to negotiate. So that's Mexico right over there. Right across the river there, just a few, probably 200 yards, 300 yards away at tops. As I've shown you before, this shows you how easy it is to get across. And it's just too much for the Border Patrol to handle. I don't know what military units the Mexicans might have on the other side, but I can be pretty sure that there's not much on this side. Again, you know, what I want to point out here is that we're spending all this energy to control the interior of our country, and nothing here. Very, very little here. Yet this is the easiest place to get in. We subject ourselves to encroachments upon our very personal, private thing that we have, the thing that we should protect the most, the thing that really defines our pursuit of happiness, our liberty. We encroach upon that. We violate it with searches and with demands from federal agencies that have no concept of what they're actually doing to us, or they don't care. Yet here, a real enemy can get across. There's very little to stop them. I am in Texas, obviously. I won't say where, but this is at a hotel. The American flag is all the way up. I'm not going to show it. Well, I can show this one over here. All the way up on the staff. But these two are at the same height. The Texas flag and the Mexican flag. So, just thought I'd show you that. Said I was going to document this kind of thing. I'd like to find out who actually owns this property. I'm in Brownsville, Texas, and just down this road about a mile is the border. And as you can see off to this side over here, there's an inlet that comes in from the Gulf of Mexico. Not a lot of Border Patrol activity around here. There's a major station not far from here, but I haven't actually seen any activity. Flyovers, no cameras, no lights, no patrol vehicles. And yet, this is a very likely area to come across. You know, I've checked some of the more remote areas, and remote areas offer a problem to these guys. They can't forage as well. They'd have to carry almost everything with them. So military people are going to know better than that, and they're going to forage. So if I were to come across, like I showed you earlier, I'd come across an area where I know I can get some supplies and things pretty quick. And that's why I'm kind of looking around these areas where they're close to cities and towns. This one is still rather remote. It's kind of northwest almost of Brownsville, not quite, maybe more directly west. But at any rate, the road here and this inlet would be perfect ways to travel. And as I'm going to show you here in a minute, there's plenty of brush to stash things, and that's really what I'm looking for at this point: evidence of movement anything that might be stashed in the area, that kind of thing. Well, I had a little success. Stumbled on a guy sitting in the brush. I surprised him almost as much as he surprised me. One of the things I got to be careful of, he was already there. He was from Honduras. A little surprised about that. He spoke a little English, I spoke a little Spanish. I checked him out. He didn't have anything with him of any consequence, some clothing basically. I checked around, there didn't seem to be anybody else in the area, glassed the area. We're going to videotape him, but he's really not what I'm looking for. Anyway, it was a little awkward that first time, so we'll kind of work on it from here. And here's that fence up close, so you can see it is about 18 feet high. There's an opening right there, and these are all over. Plus the fence only goes so far that way and then stops. You see me up against it here. You don't have to climb it. You can pretty much get through at any number of locations. So a fence or any barrier that's not under surveillance is useless. So this was a waste of money. And anybody who understands security will know that. In effect, what this fence does is concede about a mile of US soil over to Mexico. All of this territory back here, if they were to get up a barrier, complete the barriers on that gate, would be inaccessible to the Americans who own it. Okay, well, I've traversed several wooded areas and fields, and right over there is where the Rio Grande runs through. And this field here is one of the fields, and that road right over there is one that they apparently traverse quite frequently. And the ranchers in this area seem to think that they're not just carrying personal belongings. These guys act very unfriendly. Not like people just coming across to get work, but like they're really up to something. That they'll give you a look like they could kill if they could. And no doubt they have the ability to do that. So we're going to sit here for a few hours and see if anything happens. While I'm sitting here in the brush, I got to tell you that one of the things I have learned is that the people around here are genuinely scared. I'm in Brownsville, just across the river over there, which is about a half a mile from me. Is one of the largest groups of Zetas right there in Matamoros. Apparently they had quite a shootout there not long ago where 70 people were killed, mostly innocents. They were just bystanders just trying to get around. They didn't care who they got. These people here are very careful about what they say around strangers, around even their neighbors. They don't know who to trust. Drug money has a tendency to buy off a lot of loyalty. Sad. So if anybody tells you that these people around here are exaggerating the problem, all you got to do is look in their faces. They live with it every day. I've seen one Border Patrol car here today, and I got here at 12:30 p.m. and the first Border Patrol vehicle I saw was at 17:35, and it looked like he was headed down to one of the ranches I wasn't far from, probably on a special call. But the point is that the fence is here to funnel people, really, with nobody here to watch it. I could go back and forth between here days on end. Now, supposedly, there's some treaty with Mexico that says that we can't put this barrier on the river. I've heard that excuse, and I've also heard the excuse that, well, they can't put it, you know, where the land is wet, that it won't set well. I don't know what the actual truth of the matter is, but both of those sound pretty weak to me when American lives could be at stake. What do you think? people here are afraid to talk. They're afraid that they'll be singled out by the Zetas and that the Zetas will retaliate. There's probably some truth to that. So how do we counter it? By strength. Those troops that are in Afghanistan and Iraq ought to be here. We have enemies to the south. Real enemies.
Oh, my sister used to do the water testing for the water district people until she used to get shot at from across the river. So then she quit. It wasn't worth the time.
Or the danger.
No, the danger not now.
And we're going down to the river right now.
A couple of months ago when we had all that rain, all of this was underwater.
All of this was underwater.
Up to the bank there.
That's amazing.
We haven't had that happen since '66.
So you carry guns with you all the time. Do you feel endangered?
Well, let's just put it this way: we're more cautious than we used to be. You got to know your surroundings. I worry for my mom when she's at home during the day because she's alone there. And the water's up today. You'll never believe this was down to the sand yesterday when Saturday.
Is that right?
Saturday
So
when I brought the reporter by. This is a man-made dam. It's all rock.
Who made it?
Our side did.
So the U.S. side made this little dam.
So fast. Yeah.
Now that's Mexico right over there.
That's Mexico.
Looks like there's a car right there sitting on the...
Yeah, he's shrimping. He's getting his bait. He's over here with his fishing net. He's not one that I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's his net right there.
Now, when we're out here, if we see people in the trees, that's the signal that we need to get out of here.
Why is that?
Border Patrol has told us that when they're in the trees, it's a sign that there's going to be a crossing of either dope or people.
Wow.
And the last thing you want to do is be in their way.
Yeah.
We used to come down here, and we got to play along the banks there, and it was a lot of fun. But now it's not safe to come down here. My brothers used to come hunting out here. But we feel it's just not safe, and coming down here with a rifle would be antagonizing the other side or bringing attention to ourselves, and we just don't feel that it's safe any longer. We've known some of our neighbors also that have had problems coming down on their banks and having altercations. Last month, for 3 Sundays in a row, we heard a lot of gunfire, and we would hear booms and bangs right at dusk. And, you know, my husband had heard multiple shots at a time, so, you know, it wasn't just a regular guy hunting, you know, so it's pretty scary when you can hear it across the river.
How far is Matamoros from here?
Well, that's it, there. That's it.
Right there.
Yeah, that's farmland right there, but that's Mexico.
That's Matamoros, Mexico.
Yeah,
right there.
if you were driving on the other side, I'd say less than a mile is civilization.
You don't have any law enforcement protection out here other than the Border Patrol?
Correct.
And when they built the 18-foot high fence, they did not build it on the river. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did they lead you to believe that that's where it was going to be built, and then
No.
they changed it? What happened with that?
We never knew where it was going to be built. No one informed us. We were not permitted to ask. Nobody gave us any answers, did they? We had town hall meetings. We weren't permitted to speak. It's just unbelievable the way that we as American citizens have been treated.
I believe Michelle was telling me a few minutes ago that when you all arrived at one of the meetings, they told you that the meeting was for important people or something to that effect?
Correct.
And that apparently didn't include you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that's how they made you feel?
That's the way it made us feel.
And how did you
gotten in without?
And how did you how did you get in? Could you tell us about how you got in? Now you're landowners here, so if anybody has a concern, it would be you.
Chente.
It was Chente.
It was Chente, one of the border patrol agents. He saw us and he let us in.
And you wouldn't have gotten in if he hadn't been there.
No.
And yet this is about you and your property and your lives.
Correct.
So when they decided that they were going to put this fence in, they had moved the fence obviously from the river, supposedly because of some treaty with Mexico. That's what they said, right?
Correct.
Now I've also heard that some officials said that, well, it was because they can't put it in marshy areas. It wouldn't have worked. Now I've heard that excuse as well, so I'm not sure which it is.
Well,
but
that's a new one.
yeah, but the fact of the matter is that they moved this fence anywhere from a few yards to several miles away from the river. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And with that fence being that far away, you were telling me a story, Mario, about what they had told you about they had checked the area. Could you give us that story again? And remember to speak up pretty loud here.
Well, the Corps of Engineers said that they had personally come down and talked to all the landowners who would be affected by this border wall. And at one of their meetings, I pointed out an area and I asked them, you know, if a person lived here, how would they get out? You know, go to work, receive their mail, get emergency services. And he says, well, there's nobody down there. And I pointed out the roof of my mother-in-law's warehouse, and I said, well, we live there. And he was astounded that there was actually a home out there. And after I asked him if there was going to be a gate or some way of getting out, he said, well, we don't know. So I asked him, so how do we get emergency vehicles? How do I go to work? How do we get our mail? And his response was, well, I guess you'll have to follow the Border Patrol out. You know, which exit they have.
Now, along with this, you all weren't the only ones behind the fence. I've seen several homes today that are out basically in the New Mexico territory. I mean, they've moved the fence out and it's away from where the border actually is, so they've conceded that much land, I mean, in principle. And yet there are a lot of farms, a lot of people's homes that are back there. I've seen them myself today.
And the government doesn't like us saying, well, we're in Mexico now. They don't like that term, but basically we've been shut out of America. We've been shut out of the state of Texas.
So
That's basically what's been happening.
So basically you live, in other words, the fence has been put up. How far away from the river is the fence?
Well, from the house here it's 208 feet.
From
the house to the river.
To the river is 208 feet,
Yeah.
and from your house to the fence is how far?
One field.
So 300 yards?
Oh, yes.
So in other words, your house stands basically right in the middle of the river and the fence.
Correct.
And then outside the fence is the rest of the state of Texas.
Yes.
Correct.
And the way we are situated here is to the other side, we look as an abandoned home.
Exactly.
With no protection. And that's where our insecurity is. Because we don't know how safe we are. We don't know what they're thinking on the other side. That can they come across and just take advantage of the situation. And when we write to our representatives and we ask them where's our homeland security, and we're told that we are supposed to sacrifice land for the benefit of the whole nation.
Who answers your calls for emergencies, crimes, assistance?
The Border Patrol.
You don't have a sheriff out here even though you're in the county area?
No.
Why is that? Why did that happen?
We haven't had patrols since the 70s. The only time we see patrol units out here is when somebody drowns.
And when the fence went up, or when they were talking about the fence going up, what did the Border Patrol tell you? That you were telling me a few minutes ago that they said that once the fence was put up, what was going to happen?
That they would not be patrolling the river.
That even the Border Patrol wouldn't be patrolling the river. Mm-hmm. They use sensors, they use cameras. Do you have any lights? Do they have any lights around here?
We did have a light. We had a light until a week ago Tuesday when those people came. And the Border Patrol came and took it away. And I did call the Border Patrol station and to find out if it was gone permanently or whether it was being worked on, and no one got back to me. And so then I called one of the head people down there, and I told him that I'm not much for talking on the telephone. I want you down here because there are things I want to ask you and tell you. And finally he called me back today to tell me that the light would not be put back. That the Border Patrol, in fact they've taken the lights from here, from the river, and from over here. They've taken them all away because their budget has been cut as far as equipment and anything else.
Sensors, cameras?
Everything. It's, yes.
Do they think the fence is going to solve all the problems, which it manifestly cannot?
Napitaliano was on a TV show at night.
You're talking about Janet, who's
Yes.
the head of Homeland Security.
Yes. And they asked her if the fence or wall or where was going to solve the problem. And she said, no, they will go under, over, and through. And then she took over for Michael Chertoff. And she kind of waffled there for a while. And actually, I didn't think she was making the right statement, because then she came back and they were taking the Border Patrol and they were training them for riots in America. And I thought, where is this person coming from? But I realized she is smarter than we're giving her credit for, because people are beginning to get tired. They are really getting tired, the American people. The pendulum has swung and it is going back.
So what you're saying is that what she was saying is true. The government is afraid of the American people being upset that their government isn't doing their job.
That is correct.
And so she admitted
Yes.
admitted that the government security forces, military forces, whatever, are there now to control the American people, not to control
That
our
is
borders,
correct.
not to control, or to give us
Yes.
true protection and
Yes.
security.
When she was in Arizona, she was completely against the fence.
Yes.
She said it wasn't going to work. When she got appointed, she did a turnaround so quickly.
Well, I'm sure you all understand, and I mentioned this to you earlier, and you all are very familiar with this. A barrier is no good by itself. You have to have observation of that barrier somehow, be it by camera, be it by personnel, watchtowers every half mile, whatever. A barrier by itself does nothing. Now, I've heard that they say that, well, it channels people into areas where we can see them. Do you know how many times I went back and forth across that barrier today and nobody came to check me out?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Border Patrol, I was on that barrier line going back and forth for 5 hours today, and I didn't see a Border Patrol agent once. Well, I am now about 50 miles east of El Paso, and this is that same type of fence that we've seen in Brownsville, Texas, that they've constructed, 18 feet high with a lot of gaps in it. There are a few more gates along here, but not many. Let me tell you a few things that I found out since I've been here. As with Brownsville, people are afraid to talk. They're afraid of retaliation from the cartels. Now, this fence, I don't know how far it goes that way, but back this side, it stops probably about a mile from here, maybe a half a mile, and then there's nothing for many, many, many miles. The river is just on the other side of the fence here, probably about 250 yards over there, and of course it separates these people's farmland that they can no longer use. Now I hear an agricultural piece of equipment over there right now, but they have to go all the way around or go through the gates to get there. It's just a real inconvenience. So again, this is not built at the river. I was told by a few people that there have been some kidnappings from here, and the cartel does make threats. They actually come to people and say, hey, can we use your land to traverse? We're going to bring drugs across. And of course, if you say no, then you might have a problem. One lady that was talking to me said that she told them no, but that's because she didn't know any better. They had just moved here at that point in time, and she said no, she wouldn't allow that. She also told me a situation where they've checked with the National Guard. When they see people going across the fields here, they'll go to the National Guard people that are here and say, hey, stop them. And they say, well, we've already radioed it in. How long will it take? And the lady asked, how long will it take to get there? And they said, 15 to 20 minutes. And she says, well, they'll be at the interstate by then, so I'm going to go stop them. And he said, no, you can't do that. And when she said, yeah, I'm going to, they had Border Patrol there within about 2 minutes. So the capability's there, it's just not the desire, apparently. It depends on who's making the crossing, I suppose. I can tell you a joke about that, but I'll refrain from right now. Another question that came up was why the active military can't secure the border, and they conveniently they bring up posse comitatus, but they've been violating that in enforcing civil law against American citizens everywhere else, including DUI traffic stops, the G20 conventions, things like that. Well, here we have a real border problem. Posse Comitatus does not say that the military can't secure our borders. It doesn't say that. It says that you cannot use active military to enforce civil law against United States citizens. That's what it says. They will not be doing that by preventing an invasion across the border. That is their job. So I wanted to clarify that the military, at least some representatives of it, are saying that they can't be here because of Posse Comitatus, and that is just not true. That's real convenient public information so that they can justify not doing anything at all. Now I wanted to show the border here where the fence stops. Now I've been told I need to be careful out here. They have had people shot on this side of the border from across, so I'm going to go take a look at some other areas, but I wanted you to see this. Now here is that fence a little more up close. Like I say, the river is just basically about a quarter mile on the other side. Okay, I am now west of where the fence ends, and I'm going to drive down to the river here, and you can see that this whole area here is wide open, wide open. It looks like we have a couple of Border Patrol agents here. They're not going to like me being here since this is the federal levee, but I'll talk to them anyway for a minute. That's the river right there. You can see in the tree line, just right there is the river, right in those trees. Actually, they treated me pretty well. They told me where the guy's house is that I'm looking for. Was the guy who actually told me how to get down here. So we'll head back out on the road now and head further west. A lot of open area out here. These Border Patrol agents are not trained to take on paramilitary forces or to know how they could sapper through an area like this. Sapper meaning sappers are trained to get across enemy lines, and this would be extremely easy to get through here without being detected. Even with ground sensors and cameras, you could do it. I'd demonstrate, but not right now. Well, that over there is Juarez, Mexico, and you can see how close the fence is to the river. That is the Rio Grande right there about 50 yards from the fence. I'm going to swing back around and see if I can get another look at it. Here's the fence again, right along this road. And that is Juarez on the other side, if you can see those houses. It's a little tricky doing this on a one-way streets, things like that, but this is the fence, just this side of the Rio Grande, just this side of it. Border Patrol right there. This is the levee. The river's just on the other side of where that Border Patrol car is, and that's Juarez right over there. See if I can stop and get some pictures here for you. So as I was saying, there's Juarez, and it's really dusty today, sorry about that, but this is right next to El Paso, as you see right there. So when they say that they can't build the fence next to the river, you can see here that that's exactly what they've done. That fence is maybe 100 yards from the river, if that, maybe 50, maybe 25 in spots. Because there's the river right there, and there's the fence in this area here. I'm going to have to apologize for shaking the camera so much, but it's hard with the wind here. It's just really blowing. That's why it looks so hazy today. But that's a Border Patrol vehicle sitting on the levee. And just feet down below that Border Patrol vehicle is the Rio Grande. You can see that the border fence really isn't here. They have this fence here with the top guard facing this way instead of the other way, which is not quite right. But that's Juarez right over there if you want to take a look. Right there. Alright, so on to New Mexico. This wind is so nasty, it's blowing up the manure from out there in the fields. You can smell it in the air. Look how bad this is. I'm in New Mexico now, and you can see how bad it is. Like I said, the wind is blowing the manure, the cow manure, the horse manure, and all sorts of other manure all over the place. Look how nasty this is. It smells like manure. The very air smells like manure. I hope I don't get sick from this. Wow, it's been a long day. Well, I decided not to stay too long in New Mexico. The windstorm has just been too bad. It would be really of no advantage for me to try to do much here. Very thick dust, and there's more coming. So I'm going to head on over to Arizona. That's really where I'm interested right now because of what's going on in the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Reserve. So anyway, here we are. We're headed off to Arizona. We're south of Sierra Vista, and you can see this is the fence line here. And I want to show you it going up the side of the mountain here. Just a second ago there I was looking towards the east. This is towards the southwest, and you can see the fence goes up that mountain there, and it stops right about there. The mountains they consider a natural barrier. I just talked to a Border Patrol agent here in Coronado, and I'll tell you more about what that's all about. But this is one of their stations, lookouts here. They also have National Guard in the area. Well, the Border Patrol agent here told me quite a few interesting things. One of which I want to show you here. They say that the Zetas have lookouts in these mountains and that they're being watched. That's the Border Patrol all the time. And one of the areas is this little spot I'm going to show you right now. It's a little green area on the side of the mountain, and they know they're in there. They found them there before, but they get away because they are highly trained. And it's right up there on that mountain right there, and the spot is all that green right in there. They can hide in there, and they're probably up there watching me and whoever else comes through here, but of course primarily the National Guard and the Border Patrol, because then they'll radio and give that intelligence information to their people on the other side of the border, which is just on the other side of that mountain. Literally just the other side. One of the things that the Border Patrol agent officer told me is that this is a high area of traffic for the Zetas and for what they call bodies and drugs. The bodies are people that have been paid for by someone in the United States to get across the border, and they'll bring them through here. Not many workers come through here, people that are looking for work. It's too rough for most other types of people. So this is principally used by the drug cartels because they can conceal themselves, and there's so many places that they can get through undetected, even with the saturation patrolling that they have here. So we're in the Coronado area up by Montezuma Pass, and I'm going up a little higher to try to get a little better look around. We're about almost 7,000 feet here. A little out of breath. It's been a while since I've been up this high. I'm now up on one of the peaks up here. Montezuma's peak is right there to the left, and I'm on this peak that's further west, and then the saddle with the road goes between those two. Down here you can see the fence line as it goes east, but you'll notice that as we come across the mountains here, there is no fence. This is wide open. There might be a barbed wire fence down there between the borders with some concertina, but nothing of any real significance. Now, as a military guy, I'd like to talk a little bit about the mountains being used for travel by paramilitary groups like the Zetas. The fact of the matter is that while observation posts would be very good up here, and that green area that we were talking about before back on that mountain you can see behind me, the observation post would be up high. I doubt that the travel goes over these peaks. What they would do is find an elevation point, what we call a grid line, and rather going up and down and up and down, they'll follow that grid line at a specific elevation around the mountains. They don't want to go out in the plains like we have over here, maybe at night, but I mean you can still do it. But if you choose to use the mountains, you're going to want to follow a grid line. That grid line is a specific elevation. So in other words, I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, let's say that they are traversing that mountain right there. Yes, they'll climb up to a certain point, say about where that little ridge is right there, and then what they'll do is they'll travel horizontally at that altitude or that elevation. Now there's a rock outcropping there, so that's a little different, but you'd follow it basically at that same elevation. That way you're not going up and down and up and down and up and down, still using concealment as you go. The guys that are in the observation post, wherever they are, can see ahead of them and warn them in case anything's in their path. A point I need to bring up here, Coronado National Monument, Memorial, whatever they call this, they still have tourists here. They have the warning signs, but the tourists are still allowed here. Where I'm going to take you next, to Buenos Aires National Wildlife Reserve, is quite a different situation. So if they're concerned with trafficking in this area, Zetas going through here, and they don't close this, what's going on in Buenos Aires National Wildlife Reserve? I think we're going to find out, and especially considering the fact that the U.S. Army Military Intelligence School is so close with all those intelligence assets available to it. So we're going to go take a look. Well, the Border Patrol has tactical units. I just ran into one. They wear tactical gear, and they're actually getting ready. This particular group is getting ready to head up into the mountain here to look for some of the Zeta observation posts that are higher up. But then again, like I say, a lot of these guys, they need military training to deal with military groups, and even though they're well equipped, and I'm sure that they're pretty good at what they do, they need to have expert military training to deal with this. Boots on the ground require boots on the ground. At least they got the right idea. Have a whole lot of them moving up through here. I'm sure they've located something and they're going to go try to get it. Tactical team member there. Don't want to watch his face too close. Alright, I'm on the far west side of the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge. Coronado, which is where I just was, is that way. And we're quite a ways from Fort Huachuca now, but that's because we're on the far west side of Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge here. The other side, the east side, is closer. Now, the reason why I'm here is because this area has been taken over by the drug cartels, the Zetas, and the United States has basically said to the American people, we can no longer hold on to this property. We can no longer control it, even with the Border Patrol out here, who do a very good job, by the way, and other enforcement agencies. We can't hold on to this land. So, American people, it's best if you just stay out of here. And I'm going to show you some of those warning signs. As I mentioned, we're at the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge, and 180,000 acres or thereabout have been closed to the American public because the United States government says it can't guarantee your safety here, it can't control this property. Now, the area that we're talking about goes from about Sassabee, where I am right now, east of here about 5 miles to the Coronado National Forest. And it's about, I'd say about maybe a mile wide, maybe a couple miles. I'm not sure the exact size. But this entire area that is U.S. property has been closed off to the American public. Looks like there's a National Guard outpost or a military outpost of some sort in this closed off section of the Buenos Aires refuge. And looks like they've been here for a while. Here's another one of those outposts. Border Patrol with the National Guard observers. As I've said, the National Guard are not allowed to engage. They observe and report, and then the Border Patrol engages, makes contact. That post is in the closed area. Looks like about a quarter mile in. We're at the southernmost point of the United States here as far as the Arizona border is concerned. This is the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge. We're looking into the area that's been closed to the American people. And probably rightly so. This is a dangerous area. This and the Coronado Forest are definitely high traffic areas. The fence follows the border here, and from the looks of it, the closed area is probably a mile or two wide and about 5 miles long. And the interesting thing about this is that on the Coronado side, you're really close to the border there, but it's not prohibited to the citizens. And yet, I know for a fact that we've been told the Zetas go through there frequently. Here, it's not the Zetas so much, although of course it does happen. They talk about here getting up to 30 people in a group trying to get across, and then they just quit. But I get the feeling this isn't really the dangerous area that they've been saying to keep people out of. But we're here to find out a little bit more on that. The terrain here is perfect for concealment and for movement. Lots of small areas, small draws, bushes, depressions. This is the road that goes alongside the closed area. Now you're looking into the closed area south. Well, we've left the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Reserve, and we're in Coronado National Forest now. And what's amazing about this is that if I were to choose a way to come through, it would be here, not in all that flatter land on the other side. And yet, there's really not that much Border Patrol activity over here. All we've seen are unmanned surveillance towers. And so we're taking a little more caution through this area here. We brought our weapons out because this would be the place, if I were going to run into somebody, it would happen here. So we're going to proceed with a little more caution now. Okay, well, I'm at the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge, and what you see down there is Sasabe, Arizona. It's right on the border, and we're looking almost right into that exclusion area that's about 5 miles long and about 1 mile to 2 miles wide. You can barely see the fence there. So this whole area that you're looking at right in there is all the area that Americans are no longer permitted in. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of the area here so you get an idea of how large it is. This is kind of looking east and north as we go on up the refuge. It's about 30 miles long and about, maybe 10-15 miles wide, maybe 20, something like that. So I'm going to be out here for at least 2 days, today, tonight, tomorrow, and the next night. And we're just going to see what we can find out. Again, you're looking over right now into the area that's been prohibited to American citizens. and supposedly that's where all the action takes place. But as I just pointed out, why bother to go through there? This will be a lot more advantageous here. So I have already found evidence of foot traffic through here, and I can guarantee it's not tourists, not with the size of the feet. We'll be back at you here shortly. Well, I came down off the hill and didn't really see much. Going through the brush right now back to where I need to be, and bring this a little closer so I don't have to talk quite as loud. And not much activity right now. The disturbing thing is that as good as I see the Border Patrol in so many areas, I haven't seen one vehicle, one Border Patrol agent in this area today. Now I'm on the west side of the refuge, the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge, and really this would be a prime area for people to go through. As a matter of fact, up in the hills there I actually did find some tracks. Now, you know, this could be an area where, you know, people taking pictures, birds, campgrounds, stuff like that will do it, but you know, most people pretty much stay away from here right now apparently. But at any rate, so I'm just kind of working my way back right now. Let me turn on the light here real quick. Be right back. There, little light kind of helps things a little bit. It's been an interesting day, kind of long, but we'll see what we can find tomorrow. Well, it's morning, and I'm more or less in the south central part of the park right now. About maybe 2-3 miles from the border, and I'm just hiking south. Alright, well, this is why I say that it's important to get out on the ground. When you have boots on the ground, you have to have boots on the ground to find them. Now, what I have here behind me, as you can see, this is a very well-traveled trail. This is used probably every day. The closest thing I've seen that the Border Patrol might have here are tick riders. Those are guys on horseback, but they're not even here. I can't find any evidence of any horse hooves, but definitely there are people tracks here, and let me show you what I found. This very well-worn trail is down in a gully, so it would be easy to hide. Now I'm sure the Border Patrol and the Forest Service or whoever knows these things are here, but the point is, if you traverse this correctly, if you're militarily trained, you can get a long way without anybody seeing you. Proper lookouts, point men, reconnaissance, and it's not a big deal. It really isn't. So this is an extremely well-worn trail. They might have some sensors around here, Border Patrol. There might be a camera, but I really doubt it. I think most of their effort is right down on the border, which raises some other questions. That exclusion area I was telling you about earlier. Alright, I've gotten above that ravine, that gully, and so I can look down into it. Now I'm going to be very careful here. If I were anybody, but especially a Zeta, somebody who's been military trained, this is the kind of area I'd hold up in the day. Lots of places to hide, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we go through here. Not just trees, but little impressions in the ground, things like that. So I'm not going to do much talking while I show you this. Indeed, somebody's actually been down there. I can see footprints. Just outside the gully, like I was telling you about. Lots of footprints down there. More evidence of bottles and things being thrown about. So this is a very high trafficked area. I've come down through there. As I said, lots of footprints there and up on the trail here. Great hiding place right along the bank here. As a matter of fact, I am certain that's what this has been used for. It's packed down. Some tracks are in there, so this is a resting spot right here. We're looking back towards where I just took that shot of the fence, and that's Sassabee back there as well. Now, I'm about a couple hundred yards from that what I call an exclusion zone, a restricted zone, and it goes for about that mile or 2 miles in some places to the border. Now, anytime you have a barrier, you have to have observation, and that was a point that I made in Texas, that there wasn't really any. Here there is, but the fact of the matter is that while it might stop those who are just traveling here to look for work or to be with their families or whatever, the fact is that the mountains where I was this morning, or even the Coronado area that we saw before, offers terrain that will hide a paramilitary unit. And again, the only way to find these guys is if you're on the ground, on boots. Helicopters aren't going to do it. I mean, sure, they have thermal imaging equipment and things like that, but they're not 100%. So you need to have people out actually looking for sign. And of course, intelligence helps and all that. But my preliminary feeling on this is that while this may have been a very high trafficked area for Zetas at one point, I don't believe it is now. I just don't. Mostly what I see are things that normal people are leaving behind or are traveling. I'm not saying they aren't coming through here, but I'm saying that they could go to the mountains to the west, or, like I said, through Coronado, or any other area where they don't have to deal with a high concentration here that looks like it's doing the job, but in fact it may not be. Again, nothing against the Border Patrol, nothing against the National Guard. By the way, National Guard are armed here. I was told in Texas they were not. Here they are. I talked with them. They are carrying live rounds, and they're wearing flak vests, full combat gear. Even though they were only observing and reporting, they do know that the Zeta activity is still possible. I'm not privy to any information right now. Of course, they don't talk much about that. I did read the other day where there have been 30,000 killings in Mexico over the last few years. That's a war, folks. That's an insurgency, and that's what I'm going to call it, is an insurgency. In any other place in the world where there was a government we were interested in, and if there was that kind of government, anti-government insurgency going on, or government complicit in the insurgency, in this case drug money, we'd go in there, especially something this close to our borders where our own citizens, our own residents, our own people have been threatened. They live in fear every day. They have to carry guns with them while they're out, working their fields or tending their cattle or whatever. Sometimes they're prevented from using their property because the fence has cut off some of their land. It's not on the border. So again, I'm going to call this drug cartel the Zetas, and a little less so the Zapatistas. The government has been a problem for a long time. It's corrupt, and so some of these anti-government groups have a good grievance. But the Zetas, in bottom line, and the drug cartels, they are a method of insurgency. That's what they are. They're killing people indiscriminately. We go and bomb a village of 200 people to get one person in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's crazy. That's wrong. Well, the Zetas do the same thing, and we complain about it when they do it. They're after one guy, and they'll go in and kill a whole family or a whole neighborhood. But we don't do anything here about that kind of thing. So, Gaddafi, the war in Libya just started, and we make a big deal about Gaddafi bombing civilians, which he really wasn't. He was going after the rebels. It was a lie. But let's say it was true. Let's say that Gaddafi was allowing his civilians to be slaughtered. We're going to go protect them there, but we're not going to protect our own here or just across the border. Folks, there's something wrong here. So what should we do then? Well, I think what would be very wise is to have airborne units, small tactical response teams that when sign is found or when there's evidence that something has crossed the border, that they can respond and track them or cut them off. It would be inexpensive, and it would be quick, and it would be, I think, extremely effective. So that would be my estimation of the situation at this point. Again, airborne units, small tactical units that can locate, hunt down, engage, particularly Zetas and the drug traffickers. They say that there are weapons going from the United States into Mexico. I highly doubt that in any large quantities. In fact, it was just broken in the news lately that the ATF actually had an operation where they sent, I think it was like 20,000 guns down to Mexico, and they got caught doing it, and they said that they were doing it to track them, where they're going. Well, that's baloney. Just like with the drug business, we're protecting the heroin, the poppy fields in Afghanistan, and some of the things we did in Panama back in the 70s and 80s, which I won't go into right here, which is why Noriega went down, actually. My estimate of the situation is that we're protecting something here. We're showing that we're doing something here, and it's static. Well, these guys that are doing this, they're not static. They can move. They just adapt, so they go somewhere else. And that's why you would need these mobile, airborne type tactical units. Okay, well, I've been ranting and raving enough for now. I think I've made my point. Keep looking, though. A very recent track, probably made last night. Very possible. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that, if you carry the proper provisions and, you use some caution, you can traverse this entire area, which is about 25 miles long, maybe 30, something like that, in a couple of days, and completely bypass the Border Patrol checkpoints and sensors. I haven't seen one. I went all the way down to the road that's on this side of the exclusion area, and the Border Patrol vehicles are going back and forth, but there's nobody back here. So once you get past that point, if you're reasonably cautious, you can make it all the way to Tucson. I think I've proven that. What I've discovered on this trip, the Border Patrol and the National Guard, they do a good job for what they're made to do. But they're not made to fight an insurgency, and as I pointed out, that's what I'm really concerned with here. I'm not worried about the guys coming across the border to get work or to see their families, things like that. We're worried about the drug cartels and the Zetas. Those destabilizing problems that are in fact an insurgency in Mexico, because they control so much there, and they'll go over and take over entire towns. As I mentioned earlier, if that happened in another country in the Middle East, we'd be over there in a heartbeat. But what happens here is the Border Patrol, they'll patrol this area, but I've been here now for 24 hours. I got here this time yesterday afternoon. It's 2 o'clock now, and was on the west side. Didn't see a Border Patrol agent until possibly late at night. As I mentioned, there was a vehicle that came by. I don't know that it was Border Patrol because I couldn't see. I don't think it was. Now all day I've been here. The only Border Patrol I've seen is right down on the exclusion area border road, and nothing up here. So what am I saying? If you can figure out a way to get past the fence, either going around it because there's so many places to go around it, or through it if the gates aren't on, or climb it even if it's not being observed in an area, which in a lot of places it isn't. If you can get on the other side of that fence, on the American side, and get 1/2 mile away from it, the chances of you getting caught are almost are impossible, unless you want to be. I mean, right now, I've walked 5 miles north, and I haven't been observed questions or anything. And I imagine that most of these people that do this bed down in the daytime, because it's really silly to travel in the day. It's better to move at night. So what I'm saying is you get, if you've got the provisions, if you've got the ability to get on through the fence, a half mile past the security people that are there, and you're willing to walk in places like this, the chances of you getting caught are almost nil. You can make arrangements to get picked up once you're up past where the checkpoints are, and everybody knows where they are. Everybody knows where they are. And if they do change them occasionally, they have people that can, observe that and then give the information to the people down south so that they can alter their plans. So it just goes to further show what I'm saying about boots on the ground, having small, light, tactical units that can respond. You still need your border security and things there, but man, you need something going on out here. You absolutely do. I'm going to comment on the situation in Mexico again a little bit later, as far as why I consider it to be an insurgency, and it should be considered an insurgency. But I just want to show you that I've been walking around now for a whole day and not one question, not one border patrol or anybody. So free range. The Roman Empire had its tentacles all over the known world, and they were watching things everywhere but home. I know they say we have homeland security, but I'm going to talk about that later. I don't want to bring that up now, and I'm going to have a whole nother story about that. But I will say I don't trust the Department of Homeland Security nor Northcom, and I'll get into that later, like I said. But getting back to this, Rome had a big empire, sent their army all over the known world, but didn't take care of their borders. And how did they finally get defeated? The Visigoths and the Germans. And we got that same problem on the south border here, but it's even more insidious because these people are in it for blood and money, not just for land. Well, it's getting at that part of the day where the video won't have enough light to really get anything at a distance. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. We've spent 2 nights here by tomorrow morning and found some evidence. Haven't found any people, but that's always hit and miss anyway. This whole area is 30 miles long and about 10 to 15 miles wide, something like that. Right at the border it's about 5 miles wide, but it lengthens or widens out in spots. So I guess this is what we'll be up to today. Be done. We'll probably go to Nogales tomorrow just to take a look around. Don't know if I'll stay very long. So sorry there wasn't any more excitement, but maybe that's a good thing. Alright. If I don't ever drive another dirt road, it's going to be too soon. These are some of the documents that are posted at the refuge here, telling you about the illegal activity, the dangers involved, armed bandits, armed drug dealers, and I can't really show it to you too well because obviously, it's very difficult to do with this camera. This one talks about the closure of refuge lands adjacent to the border. 3,500 acres closed because of the violence in the area. And this is a map, of course, of the refuge, and there's that closed area in the red right there. Alright, we're in Nogales on the American side. And I am going to go over to the Mexican side today, I do believe. I have my passport with me. but I thought I'd just kind of drive around here for a few minutes and see what it looks like. Okay, this is the fence headed east. I talked to a Border Patrol agent in town who told me that this fence ends about 5 miles down. Border Patrol agent who said they can still get over it, and they do, but it does slow them down, of course. And the big benefit is trying to come back and go south with anything. They have a very difficult time doing that because there's so many patrols on this side that people trying to head back into Mexico with money or with weapons or whatever have a very difficult time in doing that. You can see all the lights here. I'm sure this place is lit up almost like daytime. As you can see, you could pass anything through the fence you want. That's not really a problem, and you could get over it if you really needed to. One of the crazy things are these hills. I have to put it in low drive and even in four-wheel drive on occasion to get up and down these hills. They're really steep, as you can see here. Fence that's very similar to some areas over in Coronado and along the border elsewhere, where it's designed to stop vehicular traffic, but of course it's not going to stop pedestrians, people on foot. They're the same things that they use to try to slow down armored vehicles in the military. And of course, this is very questionable as to how good this would be. It looks like it comes down to the river down here, and maybe that's one reason why they haven't been able to really do much about it. Well, as I was showing you, this comes down to the river, and maybe those Border Patrol vehicles can make it through that, but I just don't trust mine, so I guess this is the end of the trail for me. As I said, this is open here. I imagine they probably have cameras here and some ground sensors, some other things, but we're right on the border here. But I'd go across this, but I just don't think that my wheel size is large enough for it to be the safe idea. So I guess I'm not going to be able to go see the Army units or the Mexican Army units that are over there, but I have been told by the Border Patrol that the Mexican Army isn't real active on that side. They don't really do much. They're there on occasion, but not frequently. I don't know what the extent of that is, but I'm sorry I can't get you any further. But we got the idea anyway. Well, put it this way. Mexico isn't real concerned about people crossing the border and coming over here. And I suppose they're not really too concerned about them coming to the other side. When you go over the Mexican border, Customs doesn't talk to you. They just wave you through, the Mexican police. I've had occasions where they've stopped and searched me, taken my bags apart, but that was years ago. Maybe somebody else has had a different experience lately. But of course, when you come back from the American side, they're checking your IDs. When you're coming back to the American side from the Mexican side, they're checking your IDs, your passports, all of your information. And there was one armed guard on the Mexican side that I saw, probably a Mexican federale. But of course, on our side, there are half a dozen or more. Well, where I stopped there by the river looks like it's only about a mile till the end of the fence anyway. And then out that way, where the fence isn't, is supposedly where they have Mexican Army units on one side and maybe National Guard on the other. Now, I'm too far away to really see here, but I'll take their word for it. But like the one Border Patrol agent said, they're not real committed on the Mexican side, at least from the view of things. They're very inactive in this. And of course, as you can see here, when you compare the protection on our side, on the American side of the border, on the U.S. side, and then you see what they have on the Mexican side, it's virtually nothing. Well, it is nothing. So, how committed is the Mexican government to ensuring that the border is protected? Well, look at it this way. All the people that come over here send their money back to Mexico. Well, a good deal of them, including the drug cartels. That should pretty much answer that question. And there's some others. Another important question is, look at all the money we're spending because of the drug problem. Now, I know a lot of people get really hung up on this. There are arguments on both sides. But let's look at the reality. If the drugs were legal, all of this nonsense, all this war, all this death, all this destruction, all this violence would no longer have anything to feed it. Yeah, would more people die, or would there be more problems because the drugs are easier to get? You know, I don't know the answer to that question, but I don't think so. But I do want to say this, that because the drugs are illegal, we are allowing an insurgency to be fed in Mexico. It is the drugs, the fact that they're illegal, that is feeding the insurgency. Okay, Pamela, you were going to tell us about something here that's very important.
I said I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm a Gungo American, and I believe in the Constitution. I cannot believe the way the US government is behaving today, where they're flaunting the Constitution. It's being twisted. It's not what it used to be. America needs to start taking care of their own people. They really, really do.
Why don't you think they're willing to do that? Why are they really failing in that regard?
They're not listening.
We're too busy telling other countries how to live their
Yeah.
lives. That there's not enough space, time, and resources.
Yes, they're not listening to the American people.
Do you think there might be an agenda there? Maybe they're not listening because their intention is not to listen, that they're going to go ahead and do what they want to do?
I spoke to several of our representatives today, and I told them that the people are the government, and they are elected to do and help the people. They're not in there to do their own agenda.
Or a foreign government's agenda.
That's correct. And I became a citizen. It took me 2 years to become a citizen. I had to report to the United States consulate every month, and he would quiz me on the American government, my state government, and my city government. Today, they come across the border today, and in 6 months, they're standing there becoming citizens. Okay? I mean, they've got their hand over the heart with one hand, and they are waving the Mexican flag with the other one.
I've noticed that. There's
and
a lot of...
they're giving the test in Spanish, by the way.
They're giving the test... that, you know, one of the things that binds
English.
a nation is a language. And when you start to...
And the thing is not people speaking a foreign language. They can do whatever they want to do when they're at home, when they're on the street, and that. But English is the first language. My daughter, my oldest daughter, and when she came out, she went to the workforce that we have here to get a job, and she had to keep going back and back and back. And I told her, the next time you go, tell them that your dad's name is John Garza Taylor, which it was. And he said, oh, your dad's a Mexican, huh? I bet we can find you a job.
That actually happened?
Yes, and she said, you know something? I bet you can't. And she never went back. She took off. She went to Philadelphia.
Well, you found drugs close by here on several occasions. Is that right?
Not on the property.
Paraphernalia?
Yeah. Well, the 40 kilos were... we have bougainvilleas along the fence there, quite large. And we also have a grass that's called Johnson grass. And I was watching, and I thought, I'm going to have to dig out that piece of Johnson grass before it gets big. And I went and I found this duffel bag. Well, that's not unusual because they come over, change their clothes, and so I tried to pull it out and couldn't move it. So I called the Border Patrol, and he brought the dog out, and it was marijuana. It was 40 kilos.
40 kilos is a little over 80 pounds. That's no wonder you couldn't move it. I don't think I could.
We're laughing.
Fair value was 80,000.
Oh my gosh.
We are laughing because it was turned over to our local sheriff, Conrado Cantu, who's in the pokey for 24 years for dealing with the cartel.
Oh, now say that one more time. The local sheriff, you turned it into him.
Well, we have to.
Right, and then, of course, he was convicted of conspiracy and drug dealing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And his head people too. We need to get our government back. We really do. We are being penalized enough already, and I'm not about to go that route.
I mean,
Very brave.
when you see people getting free medical care and getting all these freebies and food stamps and stuff, and you're working day in and day out, and you can't afford health care, you know, and you're paying to put the stickers on your car, and the neighborhood right here has plates from Mexico, and they're not paying for stickers to drive on Texas highways. You know, after a while you get really tired of it. Yet you hear, oh, well, we got to help these poor people. Well, you know what? I'm more worried what's going to happen. I don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news. Oh, family killed on the border. I don't want to be those people. And I keep telling everybody, I've been telling them for 2 or 3 years, it's going to happen to somebody. And it's been happening up the valley to people.
Okay, we're looking south on down into Mexico, Nogales, and now I'm going to go back north here. You'll see that there's the sign there that says USA is this way, and on down the road right there, the different construction signs. Still no army. And Nogales isn't the worst place in Mexico, but it's still not the safest either. For the record, I don't even see any kind of security equipment around here at all. The different stores, especially jewelry stores, will have security guards. Sometimes armed, sometimes not, but that's about it. Not many cops. We're here in Nogales, and I'm doing a little documentary, as I explained, and I'm just wondering how things compare now to just a few years ago and what you think the cause of it is. And I'm going to bring this real close to you, sorry, so that it picks it up.
Well, it used to be a lot more vibrant, a lot more stores were open, restaurants, and a lot more activity, a lot more people down here coming around, and it feels really depressed. I feel sad for the people down here.
What do you think's caused this? You were saying something about that a few minutes ago. What do you think's caused it?
Oh, it's obviously the drug wars that scared people off. It scared all the gringos off.
Well, how come you all brave it?
We're stupid.
We're stupid.
You know, there's an old statement, there's a fine line between courage and stupidity,
Well,
so, you know.
You wouldn't find me walking around even in daylight in Tijuana or Juarez. But this is not a particularly bad area.
Okay, but it has affected it,
Well, yeah,
nonetheless.
it's affected the perception.
Yeah, you said your favorite restaurant has been closed now. You came down here to eat there and it's gone now. Well, folks, I appreciate you taking a few minutes. Like I said, well, I appreciate that. I just felt like that information needed to be told by somebody other than me. All right? Okay, you all have a good day. Thanks so much.